thank Mr. Dan Cronin and Dr. Shirley Young. I she sent me a brief bio, and I'm gonna try to do it by heart. And it seems as though she was a caregiver for her mother, and she joined uh, a group, um, an Alzheimer's group, to help her probably through it like I did. And from that point, she was so engrossed. This is my sanctified imagination, that she became a facilitator um, during and after her mother's death. She is an educator, as you will find out, and she comes with a lot of knowledge because she, from what I understand, she has a support group in two different places, one in Maryland, and I'm not sure where the other one is, but I want to thank her in advance for all that she's going to share this week and next week with us. So you all sit back, get your pencils and paper, and
Yeah.
if there's some things that we can give away or email to you, I'll get them from them and send it to each of you all. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Shirley.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Inc.
So this evening, we're going to be talking about the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's, and then some additional knowledge from various consultants and individuals who have been affiliated with their family situations. You'll hear from those voices. So we have some learning objectives to benefit. That's going to give us the description of typical age-related memory, thinking, or behaviors that changes. Recognize some common warning signs that includes Alzheimer's and dementia. And it will speak about Alzheimer's and dementia. And it will discuss the tips for approaching someone about their memory, explain some of the importance of early detection, and identify possible tests and assessments for the diagnostic process, and then resources available through the Alzheimer's Association. So hoping all of this type of information will give some support to the questions many of you have been asking yourselves. Next slide. Now this is talking about a family called the Garcias, and they will be telling you their family situation. Next slide. Of course, she's a 73-year-old widow. She lives alone. She's a retired teacher who is meticulously cared for in her home. Her daughter, Lydia, has recently been noticing some laundry pile up, which will happen, junk mail sitting around, and old newspapers lying around the house. Those can be signs that you pay attention to when you say, I'm gonna go visit mom today, and see these kinds of things showing. Pay attention to that, it's very important. Next slide. And you will be worried about your mom, of course. Why? Because she seems to be losing things and the house is a mess. And probably normal to get a little forgetful. Yes, that can be with any of us. But with her, it's not showing that kind of simplicity. Should we worry? Talk with her doctor if you're concerned about what you're hearing and noticing. So let's reach out to our old neighbor, Dr. Soloway. Let's hear what he has to say. Next slide. Sound very good.
Cognitive problems become more noticeable for almost everybody, and it can vary from person to person. Typically with age, people have trouble coming up with the word they want right when they want it. They have trouble remembering names, and they don't think quite as quickly. What's more concerning, or what might be the beginning of a memory problem, is people have a lot of trouble coming up with words or names, and it's happening more frequently, and the words or names don't necessarily come to them later. And then they start misplacing things, but not just once in a while, because we all misplace things, but more often. And it begins to interfere day to day. That should be a warning sign for people that this might be the beginning of a memory problem.
Okay, next slide. What is dementia? What is Alzheimer's disease? Why is it important to know the signs? Next slide. And so I'm going to give you highlights of the 10 warning signs. So I hope you have your pad and your pencils ready so that questions can be given at the end for anything that you need to know more of. Number 1, memory loss that disrupts your daily life. Common signs are forgetting recent learned information. Other occurrences are forgetting important dates, events, asking the same information over and over again. Must rely on memory aids such as reminder notes, electronic devices, or family members for things they used to do on their own. Sometimes forgetting names or appointments, but remember them later. Number 2, challenges in planning or solving problems. Changes in their ability to develop and follow a plan of work. Or let's say with numbers, loss, familiarity with recipes or keeping track of bills. Difficulty concentrating, takes longer to do things. Make errors when balancing their checkbooks. Number 3, difficulty completing familiar tasks. At home, at work, or even at leisure. Often find it hard to complete their daily tasks that they normally would do. Have trouble driving to familiar location. Managing a budget, or remembering rules of, let's say, a favorite game of theirs. Needing help to use the settings on the microwave, or record a television show, which they sometimes have done. Or even forget to turn off the stove. And that's happening in those who's normal, but also with those who's developed dementia. Number 4, confusion with time or place. Lose track of dates, seasons, and the passage of time. Trouble understanding something that is not happening immediately. May forget where they are or how they got there. Getting confused about the day of the week, but figuring it out later. So out of these 4 that I've given you so far, some of us, even in normalcy of our life, will have some of these experiences. But what happens with dementia occurring, and they sometimes diagnose it with depression, it seems to occur every day. That is the difference of it not being, how to compare between a normal person and someone who is developing a condition that is going to broaden itself. So that's why you need to be mindful of how they were normally as to what changes is taking place at the time that you're seeing it. Number 5, trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Have vision problems is a sign of Alzheimer's with some. They may have difficulty reading, judging distance, and determining color or contrast, which may cause problems with driving. Vision changes are related to cataracts, glaucoma, age-related macular degeneration, and those types of conditions requires ophthalmology examinations, and hoping that everyone is taking those examinations yearly with your medical management, because they are conditions that really needs to be brought forward for you to be mindful of the changes in your vision. And in some cases, it does really affect your driving, especially at night, when you will find certain things are changing in your eyes. But all of those conditions can lead to very low visual condition, and you need to have that in check and not to allow yourself to go into any other medical difficulties leading to dementia. Number 6, new problems with words in speaking or writing. You may have trouble following or joining conversation. You may stop in the middle of a conversation and have no idea how to continue or to even repeat yourself so succinctly and continuously that disrupts your relationship with whomever you are in the midst of. And you will struggle with vocabulary, having problems finding the right word or call things by the wrong name. And I had that experience with my mother, who was very communicative, loved reading, but loved talking to many friends. And what showed me that she really was struggling with something until I learned that she had dementia. She couldn't connect words as she formerly did. And I helped her because I was just visualizing within myself what she was trying to say and helped her along. But then as I saw it showing more and more, I knew something seriously was occurring. So that's basically how you will be able to have some awareness if you're with someone or know your loved one enough to see those changes happening. And number 7, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. Put things in unusual places. They will do that. And I mean, it is serious, especially when they put garbage in the refrigerator, which has happened. Or hiding things and say they're stolen. When things are missing, not remembering where they placed it, they said thieves broke it. They will also say, you think I'm crazy? Be conscious of these kinds of occurrences, whether it's your neighbor who's you're seeing this with, if it's your loved one, pay attention to that. And the important thing is doctor care, appointments, try to go with them, see what you can learn, and not just fluff it away until that's okay. It's an aging thing because it's not considered an aging thing. Decreased or poor judgment is number 8. Changes in judgment or decision making, handling their money, giving large amounts to telemarketers, subscriptions to magazines, answering to scams. They pay less to groom themselves or keep themselves clean. And that is a concern when you find them not showing health management of themselves. They're making bad decisions at times. And that too would make you want to wonder what's really going on with them. Number 9, withdrawal from work or social activities. They will begin removing themselves from social activities, from hobbies, from work projects, activeness in sports if they formerly were a part of that. They may have trouble keeping up with a favorite team or hobby. They will avoid being social because of the changes they have been experiencing. They may feel weary of people, family, and social obligations. They may need a hearing test because that too is another factor that needs attention. And you can only say to your physician that you're having difficulty hearing for them to refer you to an audiologist. Changes in mood and personality is number 10. The mood and personality will change. They can become confused, definitely suspicious, depressed, fearful, anxious, and even combative. They may be easily upset at home, at work with friends, or in places where they are of their comfort, out of their comfort zone, actually. A typical age-related change can take place, developing specific ways to do things and become irritable when a routine is disrupted. Mood changes may be a sign of another condition. It's not to say that it's totally related to Alzheimer's. That's why we have to really impart upon medical management, recommending to consult a physician if you observe changes. A geriatric physician should be your primary one. A neurologist and a psychiatrist are the accompanying physicians to manage you as an Alzheimer's patient. This is what I have found over the years that would really give you the kind of medical care that this condition warrants. And so having a geriatric doctor as your primary doctor will put all of that together for you. And in this way, you can really have a great following for your loved one. Okay, next slide. Okay, next one. Interpreting signs and deciding next steps. Yes, the next slide. Did you look at the warning signs info I sent? Or I did, but still don't know mom's showing a couple of signs, but not all the time. How do we know if it's serious enough to see a doctor? Let's see what Dr. Salloway tells us at this time. Next slide.
Memory is not all or none, especially when there are early symptoms or signs. So on a good day, people might function very well and not really even, no one notices there's a memory problem. But on other days, especially if they're tired, then things become more noticeable. So memory is variable. It's not all or none. And then there are different type of symptoms that develop for each person. So some people may have trouble with language, may have trouble with organizing themselves, may have trouble navigating while driving, and other people don't have the same symptoms. So you don't have to have every symptom of Alzheimer's to be concerned. And I think the most important thing is determining what has changed from that person's normal level of functioning. And usually people have a pretty keen sense of, what they can normally do well. And then when either they or the family notice that there has been some change from that usual pattern of functioning, that should be a warning sign to people. But they don't have to check off all the boxes.
Okay. The 10 signs is actually a guide to identify problems that may be related to Alzheimer's. And individuals can experience one or multiple warning signs in varying degrees, but they don't have to experience them all for there to be a concern. So if you notice any of these signs in yourself or someone else, it's important to see a doctor. Next slide. And this is the importance of the early detection. Next slide. Hear from the expert. And what did Mary notice?
Phenomena that people who have memory problems are often less aware of it than family members or their friends who know them well. One of the reasons for that is our ability to monitor ourselves. which is an important part of brain function, decreases when we start having memory problems. Not in everybody, but commonly, and more than half the people with memory problems. And so the person is just not keeping track of the trouble they're having day to day. But the family members are, paying attention. If they're paying attention, they see, boy, this is starting to happen a lot, and the person's not aware of it. So the family's more aware, and they may talk to their loved one about it, and they say, I've noticed you've been repeating yourself. And they say, I'm not repeating myself. And that could either be due to the fact that they're not aware of it, or they may not want to acknowledge it.
What happened to me? What happened here? Woo!
What's happening to Daryl? I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And this wasn't the person that I know. This wasn't the person. Daryl was my husband was very, he always had to be building or designing or working with his hands. And it was getting to the point where he wasn't, and he was becoming very frustrated when he was forgetting to do things or go places.
Okay, and this is tell you what you should do if you notice changes in someone. It's good to have a conversation to give you some input about them. And find a time to do that. And see if you can go to the doctor with your loved one or your friend. Definitely. Okay, I guess here the names that I've given you is the neurologist, psychiatrist, psychologist. These are the persons that really can give you a thorough evaluation of your loved one. And it's just the best way to go than to make an assumption just because you received some information today. Well, it's a no. The doctor is the final word of knowledge of the status of your loved one. And if you're opening your heart enough to take a friend, accompany a friend, I've had to do that in New York. I helped elders in the church because they had no one to take them to a doctor, as well as my family, as well as knowing those within the church. I really take that concern to help, knowing that something is not normal. And I knew 4 or 5 years ago they were normal, but now they're not, and no one knew exactly what to do, but I knew. And so I stepped out to do that. Okay, the next one. Okay. Let's see what some of the benefits are.
There are a number of benefits in early detection of Alzheimer's. For one thing, a person is able to have
I
a
will
voice
answer that.
in what
Okay.
happens next. They can make plans. They can live life more on their own terms. They can also make plans for the future, financial plans, care plans. They can let people know what they want, which can be a real gift later on. It also allows time for families to make plans and to make decisions about who can do what and figure out care and those kinds of issues. Also, the treatments that are available for Alzheimer's don't cure Alzheimer's. They don't slow down the disease, but they do help with symptoms. And it seems as though they tend to work better the earlier a person is able to use those. So that can help too. Some people are interested in clinical trials. Clinical trials allow people to have access to treatments that aren't available yet. And for some people, that can be a really important thing to pursue.
Protection, pay attention to any changes in memory, in their thinking or behavior that you notice. And if you see changes that's unusual, take action by having a conversation. Discussing these types of concerns can be difficult. Consider using the 10 steps to approach the memory concern as your guide. And there are a number of benefits to early detection, including the opportunity to plan for future, access treatments for symptoms, and participate in clinical studies. And when I say take action by having a conversation, I had to have several conversations with my mother for me to notice there was changes in what was not the norm for her. But I stayed quiet about it and then decide, let me go to the doctor with her when she has her next appointment. And that's how I was able to bring it open. See, when they go to the doctor, they say to the doctor, oh, everything's fine, I'm doing good. But when you go with concern, given specific indications, then a further deeper discussion can take place with the doctor. Either their medications may be off, they may have some other kind of condition that could be causing it, but then the doctor is in a better frame to tell you exactly what's really taking place. And then that way you'll know if it's a memory situation or if it's something to do with something else medically that's existing. That's why it's important to pay attention to the pattern and the changes that you see with your loved one. Next slide. Seeking a diagnosis. They will test your knowledge. There's a special test that's given. Possible assessments and tests. Assessments may include your medical history, physical exam, laboratory tests, mental cognitive status tests. These things are done by your medical as well as your neurologist. Okay, next. Appointments have been going well. Mom's handling them okay. Think it's really dementia. Guess we won't know until we get a diagnosis. Well, let's see what Dr. Salloway says.
Someone could have high blood pressure that's out of control, or they might have a thyroid condition that's not regulated, or diabetes that's not right, or on a medication that actually can cause memory loss. Drinking too much alcohol can make memory worse. So there are a lot of factors that go into cognitive difficulty with aging that some of them can be remedied. And so we want to do everything we can to improve cognitive ability and quality of life.
Okay. So the diagnostic experience may vary from person to person, as Dr. Salloway had given some description of. Something other than Alzheimer's or another dementia could be causing the symptoms. Stigma and misconceptions about the disease, like believing that nothing can be done, can prevent some people from seeking a diagnosis. And what's next when the diagnosis is Alzheimer's? I called her, we got your voicemail, how did it go? Call you later when I get home, but the diagnosis is early stage Alzheimer's. Oh no, so what do we do now? So the doctor said the Alzheimer's Association offers free resources, which we do. Some even help people live well with the disease, and will call soon, but left office with some hope. Next slide. So we do have our Alzheimer's Association located just all over the United States, as well as all over the world as we're expanding universally. So we have our main number, 800-272-3900, open 24/7. And very, very referable, no matter what your question might be, they have an answer. I have used it and have promoted it to others, and great, great assistance comes from them. 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock, whatever hour you call, they are available. So one would recommend that for your lifeline number, like a 911 for the police. Use that number for your loved one when you're having some difficulty, because it is the lifeline of needs being answered. Next slide. There's one of the operators showing herself, yes. And it tells you how to go online if you wish to alzheimers.org, and there's great reference of resources even online. In communities nationwide, you have access to whatever you may need. I had friends saying to me, yeah, but you live in Maryland. I said, in Maryland and in New York, I can still connect you to the same services that I'm doing here in Maryland. It's the same services that's found in New York, in Georgia, North Carolina. That's how far I've been helping people, to let them understand, as I'm speaking to you right now, it works anywhere and everywhere. Next slide. So be a part of us. Ways to join the fight, because we're now in the war sessions now. Charles County is having their walk on Saturday, so they're looking for people to be a part of that. And I'm sure that in Virginia, you all had your sites given to you also. If you can't go, you can always contribute. And there's a trial match. You can become an advocate, you can become a volunteer. They would love to have the more the word gets around, for the more workers that say, yes, I'll be a part of this. Next slide. Okay, we're at that point of questions. One question was sent to me asking me, is it specific age? There is no particular age, yet the youngest that I have known, which was in New York, was age 43 that developed dementia. And the next age bracket that's been showing up is the age 55. And then it's been going up. What also is so beautiful, I have in my group right now a mother, 103 years old, and she does not have dementia. That's the blessing, to let us know it's a health issue and a decision that you personally make for yourself through your life. Because you heard Dr. Salloway say, if you're an alcoholic, it affects. So whatever lifestyle we choose will determine how we will live. And we do give those healthy living presentations, which you all will have next. I've had the pleasure of being with individuals whose parents is in their late 90s, just as vibrant. We have a resident here in my building, just as vibrant. So we cannot pin it to an age, if that helps to answer your question that you left me. And if there's any more, please give them.
The average, yeah, and that's a really good point, Dr. Young, is that it's so variable, because
Yes.
We have constituents that are diagnosed age of 40. Now that's not as common. The average age of onset for most adults that get Alzheimer's is after the age of 60, but there still is what we call younger onset Alzheimer's and dementias that do occur. But the majority of Alzheimer's diagnosis does occur after the age of 60 in both men and women.
Okay.
I would like to share. This is Brenda Clark. I in my hospice volunteering, I've had several patients to die from Alzheimer's that were in their 20s, 26,
Wow.
27, some years ago, about 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
So, and that's why I invited a lot of people so that they
Good.
can bring their young people on the line so that because they're young, they can start to look at their sisters, their brothers, their parents, their grandparents, and help each other notice if something is different.
Okay.
So I want to say to everyone on the line, next week we will be back here at 7 or 6:30.
Whatever time you say. You set
Let's
your
just keep
schedule.
it, let's just keep it at 7.
Okay.
And
Okay.
each one bring one. And make sure one of them is a young person.
Now, I would like to ask you, Reverend Clark, did you have the opportunity of knowing what was the accompanying condition with their dementia at a young age in their 20s?
They
Was it anything like diabetes, multiple sclerosis, nothing of those natures? No?
no, they
Just
were
straight out dementia?
athletic and what have you, and then all of a sudden,
Concussions, maybe?
not that I know of.
Okay.
Could have been early onset.
Yeah, because they're saying some of those conditions can lead to, especially PTSD,
Right.
and that happens in a lot of sports.
Hmm.
It happens in military,
Right.
and then eventuate into. Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, my name is Shirley Clark, and I am interested in. You might have already answered it, but I didn't. What is the difference between dementia and how do you know it's dementia? How do you know that maybe it's Alzheimer's? I have a brother that's 75, and right now he's in Maryland with his daughter. I don't know that she's contacted any physicians, but I'm gonna find out tonight if she's got him going to see a neurologist and all the things that you've already given us. But I don't know. He has a memory. His memory is bad. He did not know me or my sisters. But we don't know if it's if he has dementia. What is the difference between those? And his daughter wanted to take over, so we just kind of let her have control.
Well, how much is this your father, you said?
My brother.
Your brother. How much do you know about your brother's medical condition?
Not much at all.
Okay. Was he military?
He was in the military years ago, yes.
Okay. Because you're going to be military, you're going to require military connection for his evaluation. That's
okay.
Number one. Yep. Y'all got to have his paperwork together, and I hope it is.
Okay.
Where does he live?
He lives in Silver Spring, Maryland now with his daughter.
Okay. It would be good for your daughter, for his daughter.
Yes.
To make a connection to our association for consultation help so she can pull everything together. It's really a lot of work because I've had already cases through this pandemic to work with in order to rule out. He does need to be worked up. I'm hearing what you're questioning, but again, you will never be able to fully define. So Alzheimer's is an umbrella.
Okay.
As we showed in the beginning, dementia and temporal vascular and frontal temporal, all of those conditions falls under the umbrella of Alzheimer's.
It's
so
actually, Dr. Young, I just want to add one thing. That's all great information, but I want to just clarify that dementia is actually the umbrella and Alzheimer's falls under dementia. So dementia is not a disease, it's actually a collection of symptoms. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. There's over 500 different classifications of dementia. The most common are Alzheimer's is the most popular form of dementia. And then there's also vascular dementia, which is often caused as a result of a stroke. There's dementia with Lewy bodies, which affects a different portion of the brain, which often has behavioral manifestations where people behave very erratically, more so than seen normally in Alzheimer's. I mean, in our Alzheimer's patients, you can see that too, definitely, but dementia with Lewy bodies, there's a distinction there. And what Dr. Young said is 100% right, is that you really need the best way to really get a proper diagnosis and evaluation is to start through a specialist. Often people start with their GP and then they're referred to a geriatrician or even more importantly, a neurologist. But Dr. Young hit it on the head when she said to make contact with the association, the best place to start is our helpline. It's the 800-226-3900. And consider getting a care consultation. They're no charge, they're free. We have care consultants that can really, they can go over soup to nuts about the disease, about dementia, any questions, anything from kind of a loose conversation to very detailed care navigation needs. That's what our care consultations can do. But the best first start, like Dr. Young said, is to connect with your doctor. If you're military, definitely connect with the military medical system. So good advice.
Okay.
There's much help there for you under the VA. There's much help for this, yes.
Okay, one more thing I want to ask. About 20 years ago, I had viral encephalitis. And I was hospitalized for about almost 6 months there at Walter Reed. Does that fall under the heading of different things like the diabetes and all the other things that could possibly be a sign that it could, that could be, if I had dementia or anything, would that be maybe a sign with the brain injury? It wasn't an injury. I don't know how I ended up with it, but as far as I know, I didn't have an injury to my brain.
Okay. So since that incident medically, you have been well?
Yes.
Things have been normal. In other words, you have been stabilized with your diabetes?
Yes.
Cholesterol?
Yes.
Blood pressure levels?
Is good.
Okay. And you have nothing else that's of concern that you're being treated for?
Neuropathy.
Okay. And that's from?
Spinal
stenosis?
Stenosis, yes.
All right. So is that being managed well with medications?
Yes. And I see my neurologist.
Okay. So if you're showing good medical management that's in control and you're not missing appointments and lab studies and follow-ups as required, you can show good care for yourself, not to feel that you're catching any or developing any of those conditions. Because I can give you myself an example. 27 years ago, I had a brain tumor. And then from that, diabetes. But here I am 27 years later, doing well. Why? Because I kept myself medically managed properly with eating properly. There's a lot that goes with the whole program. And then I tell you how I don't even want to talk about that. But based on that, this is what's important. This is why we try to promote the healthy living, because that plays a major role in the journey that we take with our life. And not to say that that's a condition that can hit everybody, because not so. Anytime I've been able to touch with people 103, I know it's not so.
We have the, and just really quickly, I want to interject. We have a program. Dr. Young mentioned prevention and how important that is, and especially when you're younger. That was mentioned that there was younger people with concerns, and there's younger people that are encouraged to join. We have a program devoted to healthy living for the brain and body. Talks all about the heart-brain connection and the four pillars of maintaining good health into our later years, the physical activity, activity for our brain, mental stimulation, social engagement and connection, and a healthy diet and nutrition. So it's a really fun program. So that may be a program that you'll want to consider for the future. It's a really fun program.
It may help you to change your lifestyle as it is now. You will find something in this presentation that will help you do that.
All right.
Yeah.
We have a hand up from Moniece Jackson Farrell.
Hi,
Okay,
I have a question. I am a disabled vet, and I'm not clear with what you mean by, as far as establishing a military connection. What do you mean by that?
Because all of us have medical benefits, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If you are a veteran, you are entitled to use your veteran benefits with this particular condition. Why? Because you'll benefit more than just I don't know what coverage her brother has. Let's say he has Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
And he's a veteran, add to it. See, I've been to the veterans sessions, and here's what's possible today. You are able to use your basic medical benefits that you may have gotten from your jobs that you were employed with and retired with. But you also are able to make a choice. I can go to my basic benefits from my job and then jump over to my VA because it broadens the care that I'm going to receive.
I understand what you mean now. I already do that now with my cancer treatment. I thought you were talking about something different that I wasn't aware of.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Because a lot of folk came under our service through the support groups and our memory cafe, not knowing that. And through this pandemic, for these 2 years, I've been so grateful for those that came to my assistance with my group and was able to open up those avenues. And what a difference it has made for my attendees receiving broader care during this time as they're in their confined state of not knowing where to go, what to do, how to do, but yet it's been available for them to benefit the expansion of their care.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, so next week, Dr. Shirley, we're talking about what?
Healthy living.
Healthy living. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Tell a friend, bring a buddy, tell your friend to bring a friend. We want to.
Dr. Young, have we scheduled that? Have we scheduled that yet?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was already discussed.
Oh, that's great. Okay, good.
And actually, she has 3. There's a third one coming up. Oh,
good.
And,
okay.
Tara will be back to do that third one for her to have.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. That's really good to hear. Yeah. Good.
There's 3.
I want to thank you, Dr. Young.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Dan. We want to thank
Dan.
And
what happened to your speaking?
This is Pastor Clark. I want to thank each and every person who thought it not robbery to come on the line tonight to learn something that they did not know about Alzheimer's. All of us, or some of us, may have been or had an occasion to come in contact with it, but it doesn't help to refresh our memory and to get all of the newer knowledge as to what is happening in the Alzheimer's world. I do have one question before we close, and that is two questions. One, is Aricept the highest med now for
It's a
Alzheimer's?
new one. It's a new one.
It is.
They got two new ones that came out.
Okay.
Aricept is right
That
now, yeah,
first one, yeah.
yeah, Namenda, drugs like Namenda and Aricept, these are cholinesterase inhibitors. They, on average, do a pretty good job at helping to potentially mitigate symptoms of the disease. They do not, unfortunately, slow down the progression of the disease. We do know that Alzheimer's and other dementias are a progressive disease, and they don't slow down or stop. But as Dr. Young alluded to, yes, there are some newer class medications that are being developed right now. They're in the very early stage. The FDA just approved one called Aduhelm. It's also called aducanumab. Aduhelm is the commercial name. It's by Biogen, which is a Swiss manufacturing company. These are antibody-based therapies. They're administered by infusion. They are extremely exorbitantly priced right now. I believe one treatment is $50,000. So they are absolutely in the research stage. So even though they've been approved by the FDA, they are right now being used primarily for research. So you cannot go to your doctor. Even if you've won the lottery, I don't think you can go to your doctor and ask for these medications. But the good news with these is that with time, you know, we're looking at absolutely seeing the prices go down considerably, and also methods of administration varying as opposed to just infusions. So this is brand new, but it's very exciting because for these new medications, it has been shown that those with very early stage of dementia or mild cognitive impairment is what we call really the earliest stage of a dementia. It's been shown to potentially actually slow down the progression of the disease. It only works on certain plaques. Now, we do know that Alzheimer's is a very complicated disease where it's plaques, tangles, and abnormal proteins. There's one called tau protein. So this antibody therapy doesn't work on all of the different culprits, but it does have a pretty profound effect on reducing the beta amyloid plaque that can build up. So very exciting, but it's going to take some time. And then diagnosis-wise, there's a blood test that is now becoming available that may be able to determine a risk gene up to 20 years before symptoms even begin. So we have a deterministic gene and a risk gene. The risk gene is what can be identified through this blood test.
Okay. And do you know if these new drugs will have less of whatever the ingredient in them that make the patient hallucinate?
That is a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that anybody knows that yet. I mean, they've done trials. They've gone through the phase 1, 2, 3 trials, and but I don't know if
So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
For hallucination, what we're finding is that family needs to take their loved one to a psychiatrist for the hallucinations that's occurring with many of them.
Yeah, well,
and to get treated for it in that, manner, because this is something that is now showing other diversions of care that in the beginning of how we've been carrying many of our clients has been feeling only the neurologist and the main primary doctor was sufficient. But now we're seeing it not to be sufficient. People are coming back to me in my various groups sharing that they had to end up taking their loved one to a psychiatrist. I said, really? And this happened, I would say, about 3 years ago when I got introduced to this knowledge from individuals. So I had to ask them based on why. And they said to me, they became combative. and they are showing such personality changes. And that's not my wife. My wife has always been a very sweet person. And from taking her to the psychiatrist, there was a definite change in her total pattern, able to do some different events together. So again, we have to see trial and error.
Right.
But some of the meds is not to say that it will handle that, and determining what you're dealing with will,
Yeah.
tell you just what it is that one has to make.
My last question is,
Uh-huh.
how many stages are there?
I personally, I'm gonna tell you where I take this. When they first get diagnosed and come to me through the memory cafe, I start at toddler 4, they go down to infancy. That's where I've been. That's how I've been able to see.
Yeah,
You're shaking
usually
your head. What are you shaking your head to say? Yeah.
I just wonder, because when I was going through it, it was 4, and I was like, surely they've added 2 or 3 more stages to this thing with modern science. And I was
it really, yeah, it varies. It varies.
It does.
Some are defined into 7 actual stages. There's
Sometimes.
actually three primary stages: the early, the mid, and the late stage. But within those 3 primary, there are specific sub stages, if you will, that have been identified. The Alzheimer's Association still really discusses in many of our programs and literature three stages, early, middle, and late stage.
I have a challenge right now with the Memory Cafe because it's left up to me to evaluate those that come to me at the early stage. Right now, I'm just so pleased to know I have one who's been with me now 2 years and I'm so excited over her progress, because if at any stage of her condition that I see she can no longer be a part of my group, she is not responding, she is not interacting, she has very little to say, she's not doing very much, then I have to allow the family to know she no longer can be a part of the Memory Cafe, stay at home, let them do the best they can with her, and they, the caregiver, can be a part of my support group. Right. So right now, I'm very pleased to say that I've been able to give them activeness just to see how long they can stay in a stage of knowing who they are. They can still read, they can still drive, they can still be as normal as they can, and to see how long that holds. Because that's basically what we're really trying to do with the Alzheimer's groups that we have. How much retention can we give them? So that's a challenge for me to experience right now. Yeah.
All right. Well, if no one else has any questions, we're going to bring this session to a close. It's been rich, and we're in with prayer, and we begin with prayer. So let us pray.
Okay.
Father God, we few of your children coming together to learn about the diseases of the brain, the mind, and the body. We thank you, God, for these facilitators who, out of just pure love, do a pure justice for your children. God, we ask you to just bless them from the top of their head to the soles of their feet. God, we are asking you, every person that's under the sound of my voice, God, you know what may be going on in their body, their soul, their mind, and their spirit. We're asking you for complete healing if someone is not feeling well. We are asking you, God, to bless each family that's represented. And thanking you, oh God, for forgiveness of any sin that we may have committed on this day. It is in the name of the Father who sent the Son and left us all with the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Night, night.
Amen.
Okay.
Night.
Thank you.
Right.